everyone. This is the VN Talks here. I'm Tala.
I'm Cata.
And Marga.
Today we're very sleepy, but that's fine. We have a really cool episode for you guys. We're mainly going to touch on representation in everything really, in the media, in what else, like in
TV shows,
TV shows, series, and how that kind of impacted us throughout our life, and how it could like truly change people's lives if you give them good representation. And Kata, I think you'll start with the icebreakers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for today's icebreaker, I was just like thinking how important it is when you're like little and you see like all these different TV shows with all those different characters. So I'm gonna be asking you some questions. Once again, at home, you can follow along. So the first question is, let me check. The first question is, what was your guys' favorite show growing up? Like show, movie, whatever. What was it like your favorite one? So I don't know, Marga. You seem to be thinking really deeply on it. What was your favorite show growing up?
Is it like growing up? Does it mean like when I was literally a kid and I watched Disney Channel, or is it like,
God, me too. I was just
or
yeah,
is it like a bit older?
Thinking like Disney Channel, yeah.
Disney
No, I'm
Channel,
thinking like small, like those
like really
brown
like a
ears.
kid,
Yeah,
not teenager, right?
yeah,
Okay.
probably like until like tops 12 years old.
Okay, then not the one I was thinking. Then I have to think of Disney Channel then.
No, but like say the one you were thinking then.
No, because now I want to do this right. I'm trying to think of like what may have impacted me when I was little, but I don't really know if I'm gonna find any good examples of something that had like represented me in those shows. I'm trying to.
No,
Oh
it's
God,
fine. It's fine
do
if
you
you
know
didn't.
what show? This is terrible because I'm not gonna have any representation on here. So I'll just let it out and then I'll move into saying what was the other show I was thinking about from my teenage years, which might be more suitable. My favorite show when I was a little kid, when I was not before I was a teenager, was Wings Club. I was obsessed with that thing.
Great show.
God, it was incredible. So just the fact that they're fairies maybe doesn't make it that easy to be like represented in there. So I would go for, so that was definitely my favorite show when I was a little kid. But I would go, if not definitely from my all-time favorite TV show, which is a Norwegian TV show. It was translated and subtitled everywhere, and it became like a huge phenomenon.
Oh, I think
and then it has had like many different versions in many different countries.
Okay, I know the show. Yeah. I love that show.
It's a SKAM. It saved my teenage years. It's amazing. So yeah,
Did you watch
that was
SKAM
mine.
España?
I did. I've watched all SKAMs. Because it's like my all-time favorite show. I mean, none of them will ever be like the OG.
With, like, her laptop and her earphone just like this, like watching the same story
all over again. I know what's about to happen, but I'm like, okay. I just
and like when what's her name? Nora.
Yeah.
Like stands up to the the popular guy who's an asshole. You're just
yeah, for sure.
You go, girl. Like
I've done that in like 7 different versions.
Which version did you like the most though?
Yeah, it's just
I watched the one with the Belgium one. Or
WTF, like fuck, double what the fuck or something like that.
Yeah. I love
that one.
I love that one. They had amazing chemistry, bro. They had amazing chemistry.
So yeah,
fangirl.
That is my favorite all-time show. So I've like it has not only been from like me growing up, but it definitely like the OG, the Norwegian one, definitely saved my teenage years.
Yeah, the OG one, I watched a few episodes, but I couldn't watch it like somewhere. Like I couldn't find a website where I could watch it like consistently. So I used to go to different websites, but they never had the full episodes. So I never really fully watched it. But like on YouTube,
You have to.
YouTube, SKAM, W something, whatever. it talked about it, like it showed all the episodes, and oh my god, their chemistry, it just made me like
I
cry.
know. I know. So yeah, that was it. Then it followed me. The different versions followed me for like years. And I still like watch them when a new season comes out, but it was definitely SKAM since the
But I
beginning, and
love,
it will
honestly,
forever be.
I love how SKAM. I'm so glad you said SKAM because SKAM is so good at representation. Like I feel
Exactly.
like
That's
some of
why.
the only good shows that
Mhm.
genuinely, like, I was like, wow, like it's the only one of the good shows that shows, like, we're gonna talk about this like in a bit, but it's one of the only shows that shows a hijabi woman not taking off her hijab for a white guy, or that she's oppressed. Like it just okay, we'll talk about it more. But
We'll
yeah,
talk
I love
about it,
that
but
show.
yes,
And if you
definitely.
like, I would recommend for the audience to watch Scam. It's really cool. But yeah,
Yeah. Any of the
anyway,
versions, but especially the OG. Yeah.
yeah.
What a show. Okay,
What a
what was your
show.
Really, what
favorite
about you,
TV show,
Tala?
Tala?
Oh
What was your
God.
favorite?
Uh, I'm kind of like a TV show freak. I don't have a favorite, but wait, let me think of something I was obsessed with. I mean, in Disney Channel, I loved Hannah Montana.
Oh, of
Honestly,
course.
I'm not gonna lie, I love that show.
I wish that show had represented me in some way. I mean,
Me
it would have
too.
been
I was like,
nice.
I wish I could be a superstar living two lives. I swear to God, and I would sing and stuff. So, but I have other Disney Channel shows that as a child I just loved watching. But I like for Marga, like a show that kind of helped me, or like a show that I loved throughout high school and everything like that.
Mhm.
Um, oh, I don't know. I watched a lot of shows, guys. Okay, like I literally watched everything. So I don't think I would have a favorite. I mean,
Is there one that in some way it impacted you? Like maybe it doesn't have to be your favorite, but that it
oh,
impacted you in some way?
definitely. And I still say this is my favorite show, even though it's just a limited series, but it truly impacted me. And it has nothing to do with me or my life or my culture or whatever, but
Mhm.
it was just so good. It was just so good. It's called it got released in 2019 on Netflix. It's called When They See Us. Does anyone know it here?
I don't know it.
When They
What
See
is
Us.
it?
I
Well,
think I've
I
heard of it,
I
but
recommend you guys to watch it. You will bawl your eyes out every single episode. It's just 4 episodes,
hmm.
but each episode is 1 hour, and it talks about
yeah, I
a
think
true
I know
story.
what it is about.
Yeah, it talks about a true story of in Central Park, 1989. I'm assuming there were 5 boys, four black ones and one Hispanic in the park, and there were other black. They didn't know each other. They weren't friends, but all like all the kids were just like wild in the night, and that means back then like they were just playing around. They're having fun, whatever. And so like they all went to Central Park, but at that same time there was a girl who got raped and beat up to death. And so the police found these like you will see it throughout the series how they find these two, like these 5 boys, bring them together, and then kind of generalize them into thinking, oh, they're the ones who did this. And they interview them without giving them no trial. No, shoot, no trial, sorry, like no water, no food, no nothing for like 24 hours with no parents or lawyers around. And these people, like these kids are what, like 15. There's one kid that was 10, or 12 years old, 13, and they don't know any better, and they're like, just tell us you raped her, just tell us that so you could go home. And all of them are like, okay, we'll go home. They're kids, they don't know any better, but they didn't do
Yeah,
anything. And so
I
they
know.
have these
Mm,
confessions and everything, and it was all mixed up. Like if you watch the show, you'll see from like A to Z. And then in the trial they were found guilty, and they literally half of their childhood went away. All of it was ruined. Half of their child went away until the actual killer, 6 years later, the actual, not killer, rapist, and whatever he was, actually came forward because he met one of the guys in jail, and he's like, this is not their wrongdoing, this is my wrongdoings, I did this. And
yeah.
so they wasted, it was all about racism and generalization and racial profiling. and each episode it just hits so much. I know I went on a roll with this, but I recommend each person to watch it because I got educated with it. Like when I watched it, I didn't know anything really about Black Lives Matter movement or what Black people kind of go through on a daily basis. And when I watched this, it was life changing. I swear to God, it was so empowering, and it kind of reminded me back of like what Palestinians go with Israelis. It goes within the same system. Like they're always they go for like years in jails for crimes that they don't even commit, or crimes that are simple and you know small, but they go to jail because they're Palestinians. So it just reminds me of like how the criminal justice system is just so flawed, and we need to fix it. I'm so sorry I went on a tantrum with that, but I just recommend everyone to watch it. And you guys, genuinely, this is not even a podcast anymore. You guys actually watch it now. Like actually, I'm telling you.
I think I started it, but I think I never finished it.
I've seen the trailer 100%.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I know I've seen it, a little bit of it. The idea of the icebreaker was it to be like really lighthearted.
I
But
know.
thank you, Tala.
Bro,
Anyway,
okay, last time, remember when our icebreakers were like 40 minutes?
Like this one is leading
like
to be-
today.
Yeah.
No, okay, we'll move on.
Anyway, so I didn't answer. So I think my
Yeah.
favorite show growing up was probably The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and
What a
just
good
like
show.
all the like Disney telenovelas for like literally like Latino kids, so you can be like, oh my god, yes, I can be a singer. So, like
God,
Violeta and
I
like all
love
those things.
Violeta. I was obsessed with Violeta. I went to the concert, Cata. I
10 out of
went to the
10.
concert in Madrid years ago.
I'm so jealous. I wanted to go to the concert, but my parents were like, pick one, and I was like, okay, I'll pick the other one. Anyway, so my second question is the show, so like we can say it for both shows that we're picking. I'm still with like my little kids shows, but like did this show had someone that like represented you? So for example, for me, like in This Weird Life of Zack and Cody, there was like not a single character represented me. Um so that's that. That's basically that. And like my other TV show when I was growing up, I was like Hannah Montana, like Tala said. And technically the character that was like supposed to be Latino, which like it's a Latino person, is supposed to be Rico. So if you remember that, so like
Oh,
basically
yeah.
like according to Disney, like I was not supposed to be like looking after like being like Miley Cyrus or being Hannah. I was supposed to be like Rico, which is like the funny little guy that everyone is annoyed by. And
Yeah.
in Violeta, basically like everyone, because they're all Latina kids, they were like all like, yes, I can do whatever I want. And like they were singing in Spanish. So that was like really meaningful to me. I don't know. What about you guys?
I mean, on SKAM, I do find myself represented by a character. The thing is, it's funny to think about it now because back in the day, I saw like many of the struggles that the characters were having, and I could relate to some. I could understand many others, but I could never kind of find a character that I identified myself with. But then like life went on, and at the end of the day, I watched that show beginning of my teenage years. Like they were still releasing the OG seasons at the same time I was watching it. I was like watching it live for the last season. So I never felt kind of like represented by any of the characters that early in my life. But then teenage years went on, and since I've been in university, or since I was in high school, like being a bit of an older teenager, I started feeling a lot like some of the characters and relating even more than I already did with their situations, especially with the character of Bilde, which she basically at some point, it is not shown 100%, but at some point she struggles a lot with food and body image. So I kind of reminded myself of it, and I watched the show again when I started to struggle myself. And also like there's a really good representation when it comes to mental health. So I did find myself really at least understood, maybe not represented, maybe not like the same struggles, but 100% understood in some way. So it wasn't, in my case, it wasn't that much about like finding a character that is like, in your case, like a Latino, and let's see how they represented them. It was more about the topics that were being covered, you know? That's kind of what I felt represented me and has represented me during my life when I relate to this show. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, that's actually really cool. Like, because people think like, oh, I don't find any like representation. People only automatically assume it's about your race, but like it could be about 10,000 things about you. And I never really thought about
Exactly.
that. But for me, I feel like I know. I didn't feel
Short
like
answer.
I did a short answer.
Just
I
no.
didn't-
Short answer. No.
I
That's
didn't feel
okay.
represented at all, but that's fine. Like I don't feel like for me in those shows, like I wasn't looking for, oh, like where's someone like me? Because I was kind of like very westernized, you know? I mean, back in the Hannah Montana days.
Oh, okay.
But like I didn't really think of it much. Like I was very whitewashed. I was very like I didn't want to be Arab, if that makes sense. I wanted to be someone else. So I didn't really, that goes back to 100 different things, and that could be
Yeah.
because of, you know, TV shows. Like it could be a part of the reason, but I don't know. But for now, like I kind of look at TV shows and because I relate to something that it's important to me. And like I said, you know, when they see us, it related to something that was important to me. So I feel like maybe that somehow could make me feel represented. Like it could relate to something that I'm deeply passionate about. I'm deeply like,
Hmm.
you know, so eager to solve or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like, you know, when they see us, it talks about, you know, social justice issues. And I love that. And I'm studying IR because of social justice issues, really mainly. So maybe, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm
No,
lost.
but I think you made a really good point when you said like that in Hannah Montana you couldn't find, for example, someone to relate to. In that sense, it's kind of why representation can be so
Yeah,
important, like good
Yeah.
representation,
exactly.
because
Yeah, I'm gonna
especially back in
yeah.
the day, we didn't see any characters that were
Exactly.
Arab for kids to
Exactly.
see.
Literally nothing. So I
Yeah.
didn't really
Yeah.
think much of it. I was like, thought about this years later. You know, like I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what? Like I didn't think, oh, where's the Arab little girl? Like I
Yeah.
wasn't even Arab. I don't think I was. I wanted to call myself Arab back then. Like I was so like I used to really try to do things to not like I felt so ashamed at school. Like I feel like people don't really understand this, but people were kind of judgmental. You know, I remember I was eating this like food, like this Arab food, okay? It's still traumatizing. And this like Asian dude behind next to me says, "Ew, what is that?" I'm like, "How dare you? How dare you insult my zatar man ushe? How dare you?"
Oh,
Okay? I
dang.
was gonna slap him. And then like in general, like in school, like they used to call my name wrong. They used to like judge me from my mom listening to Arabic music when she used to drop me off to any other like to my friends hangouts or whatever. Like, why is your
Oh,
mom putting loud music? Like, what is that music? Like, it's just anything that was Arab. Like, I just didn't want it. I was so ashamed of it. So I don't know. I think I
yeah.
wasn't really
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
into the
That's
big
why representation is so important.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna cover a little bit about that like later on like my
Mm-hmm.
little rant.
Okay.
But I have two more questions. So the next two questions are, so what was like how old were you when like you were like, oh, that character like it's trying to like represent me? Like I don't know, like let's say at least for like the Latino community when like usually like especially like on the Western media when they represent like the Latina woman is like usually the whore, the slut, or like I don't know, like the drug dealer, or like the girl that does like just has like her body, let's say, but she doesn't have like any brains.
Or the
Now
terrace.
it's changing. um but like that's basically like how Latino women are portrayed. Now it's like changing, and I think like until I was like 16, 17, they started like portraying like girls that were like me, that like for example one of my favorite characters in like it's not my favorite character. I've never seen the show. I just know about her, and I think just she's iconic. It's in the show called One Day at a Time, and I forgot the name of the act of like the girl or the actress, but I know just know that she's like a teenager and she's like just going through life, and I just know that she's Latina and she's queer and she's like super smart and like she doesn't give a shit about anything, and she's like super like a big feminist. I'm like, Queenie, yes, as you should. But like for me, like I think the first character that I was like, yeah, that's me. I was like probably like 16, and it was not even like on a TV show. It was like on a musical, which I'm gonna talk about like later. So yeah.
So
What
you,
about you
it's
guys?
like the first one in which you felt like you were correctly represented,
Mm-hmm. That I
like
was
out of
like,
the
okay.
stereotypes and
Like, of course, like what you were saying, like yes, they have like I've seen obviously characters before with like same value, like similar values as me that like
hmm,
are searching for like similar things in life, but like it's just different when you know that like that character is not like, I'm gonna talk more about this later, but like it's different when you know that that character is not, they're not trying for you to think that you're that character. Like when like producers are trying for like be like, oh, you're Latina, so but you're not, like this character is not meant for you. Like this character, like that, I don't know, the amazing empowered woman like in the front of the show is just like, she's not meant to be you. You're meant to be like this side character. Like I also loved Lizzie McGuire growing up. Like I was not meant to be Lizzie McGuire. I was meant to be like the sidekick friend who like actually like she was not allowed to use her Latina name. She was not like because she was Latina, and like she was like always like um put powder in her face, like they over make put a lot of makeup on her so she wouldn't look like as brown as she did. So so yeah. So it's really complicated. So what about you guys?
hmm, I mean, so the question is how old I was when I found
Yeah,
this
but
character.
you're like, yes, that's me.
Hmm. I mean, it would probably be like my early teenage years. I
Mhm.
kind of never. Also, I feel like because it was then that I started to have more of an awareness of, oh, like here I can feel represented. Here I am. I can like use this to cope. I can use this to relate. I feel understood because they're portraying certain issues that affect me or that things that I feel I see characters feeling. So I feel like I kind of started to realize that when I started watching shows when I was like a bit older, when I was in my early teenage years, and I was also struggling with mental health. So that I guess is because of my personal experience, but also because when you are little and you're watching like Disney Channel shows, of course there are things you might be able to relate to, but you know what was for me to watch like a show, it was not about it was not about finding what character maybe represented me or I could relate to, and maybe it's also because the plots aren't that deep. Many times, you know, when you are watching Jesse or Saki and Cody, that maybe they will not go into things that like teenage and young adult shows go into. But anyways, even if I had found, I don't know, someone who I could maybe relate to who was really similar to me in some way, I would have tried to, instead of like acknowledge and embrace her as a character that is similar to me, if she's not like the main character, if she's not like what people aspire to be, if she's not the normative girl, as much as maybe you could relate more to her, you would want to be someone else, kind of like what Tala said. It's like maybe I could be much more represented by this character here, but when I was little, what I was dreaming of, and I feel like what we all dream of when we're watching a show is like we all want to be the main character. We all want to be the one that's normative, that's lucky, that's the blonde girl with blue eyes. So it's like that kind of feels like what you want to be, and it's not your fault. It's kind of like they're giving you the image that that is who you should be, and that is who is successful. It's someone who is the main character, and you kind of wanna be that person. So even I wouldn't look. So I feel like before my early teenage years, I wasn't looking for someone to represent me. I was actually looking for someone to be. You know, instead of being myself, I wanted to
Yeah,
be someone
exactly.
else. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
I would
early
Yeah, yeah, I
teenage
agree.
get that
years.
I would agree
too.
with you with me. Like I feel like that's the same for me. I don't have like a character. I've seen obviously Arab characters and Muslim characters, but I've never said, oh, that's me, because I feel like each character was so wrongly represented. It was so badly, so bad. And
Mhm.
and that's why I feel like that's low-key propaganda, but we won't talk about that. No, like I mean from the like US TV shows, like the Orientalist approach. Like when for example in an action movie, when people are going on a truck, like they're going past borders, or like or anything, like it doesn't matter, and they meet Arab characters, the Arab characters are always aggressive, and like and they seem like terrorists, and they seem mean, and they seem stupid and crazy, and that's like what people kind of think of Arabs and Muslims. But I feel like one show, but I haven't watched, but I've heard so much from it, and how like it's so good from so many people, they watched it, that it's so good on it's really truly represents like what American Muslims go through, and all, you know, everything, is Rami. Have you guys heard of it? It's on Hulu.
I
Rami,
have none. I have none.
the main character who plays Rami, won a Golden Globe for it. So, I
Wow.
mean, yeah, it's crazy, but I've never really watched it. But every single person tells me it's so accurate. It represents an accurate American Muslim's life. And it's not like, and I don't think it's like, oh, like he's a good Muslim, he's a blah blah blah. It represents what every Muslim in a foreign country, in a Western country, goes through, kind of how they
Yeah.
have, you know, things that they deal with. But yeah, I think I would agree with you, Marga. Yeah. Anyway,
Okay, yeah. So like I'm gonna cut the last question because I think we've discussed a lot of it like throughout the answers. So I'm gonna carry on the conversation, and like what was like Marga saying that like while she was growing up, she was like not saying like, oh, like I like this character because she's like me, I like this character because she's just like that. So I'm gonna like carry on like a little bit. So like when it was like my moment of realization of like representation for me,
Mm-hmm.
so the thing about the Latino community is that like we are, it's just not like you cannot categorize us and like, oh, this is what a Latino looks like, because it's really complicated. It's not like you could have like the gorgeous like tall blondes, or you can have like amazing beautiful like black queens as well. So and like every single person like in the middle, you can have like indigenous like women, you can have like anything, obviously men as well, but like whatever. um what are men, honestly? I'm kidding. um so like that's, it's been really, obviously it's really hard to like represent, and like obviously for me, I'm like, it's not that I'm white, like I'm not white, but like I'm closer to that part. So while I was growing up, obviously like I did have like a concept of geography. So like for me, like the states were like really close, because if I looked into a map, like yeah, it's like right there. um so like just like seeing Hannah Montana and shit, like I saw like Mila Stewart, I like she had like her brown hair, her brown, I was like, bitch, that's me. But then like as I kept seeing the show, as I saw like also Sweet Life, I was like, yes, I loved like, I don't say, like I forgot her, I think her name was Maddie. It's like Ashley Tisdale's like character in Sweet Life. I was like, yes, I love her. Like if she had brown hair, like that would be me. But as I was like growing up a little bit, and I did grow up like really fast while watching those shows, I realized that like when they were trying to portray me, I was not like supposed to be like Miley Stewart. I was not supposed to be Maddie. I was supposed to be Esteban from This With Life. There's like the character just like makes everyone laugh, and like is having like saying like his really long name. Yes, embrace it, like Latinos, we have long names. Or like it was like Rico, it's just like I loved him because like Moises Arias, like the actor, he's actually from Medellin. So like I learned that. I was like, fuck everyone else, just like Rico is the best character. So like it was really complicated because like these characters that you were loving, that you're like, yes, I want to be like, I want to be a singer like in the night and like a glamour girl in the day. They're
Mm.
like trying to tell you that like, yes, you could, but like it's not supposed to be you. You're supposed to be this stereotype that we have of you.
You're
So
supposed to be like the best friend, also like the best friend, the
I'm
funny
supposed to be
guy,
friend.
never like the
Uh-huh.
main
So like,
character.
uh-huh. Yeah, so like
Yeah.
yesterday while I was thinking of this, I was like, well, I was thinking about like what character like correctly like represented you. I like started searching, like literally I went on Google search. I was like Disney characters, like Disney Latina characters. And I found two that while I was growing up, like I really loved that I totally forgot about because like that's their impact. So the first one was Malina, and I don't know if you saw like the Emperor's New Groove, like Las Locuras del Emperador, and like it had like a TV show like afterwards, and there was like this girl, and like the Emperor was like Cusco, was like in love with her. Her name was Malina.
I
She was
don't
like, I
remember
remember
her.
seeing this show. I would just remember like I saw the picture, I was like, yes, because I remember she was super smart. She was like in her shit, she was like a cheerleader. I was like, yes, queen. And she was like obviously like Emperor's New Groove is like set in Peru. So like I remember seeing this show, I was like, yes. And the second
Oh,
one I have is I don't know if you've seen like Atlantis Lost City from Disney Channel as well. So like there's this one girl that's like her name is Audrey Ramirez, and she's like one of the people that like works in the ship. She's like a badass, honestly, and I love her. But like this like two characters lead me on to like something else about like representation for Latina women in like TV and media, this the over sexualization of them. So like if you see these two characters that I just said, I'm like I'll put some pictures for like the people listening. You will see that they're like characters meant for like little kids, but you will see that the way they're drawn, they're supposed to be hot. Like they're supposed like they put them like with the huge ass boobs and like with the
I'm
huge ass ass,
I'm
and
looking at
like with like
Melina, and she's it literally says appearance beautiful. Like that's the
literally,
description on Disney Wiki.
and like that's the thing with like Latina women on like TV. And then like obviously people are gonna be like, oh, but like you shouldn't feel sad that like you're like being represented as the gorgeous, beautiful woman. The thing is
Hmm.
that it has created a big issue within the Latinx community because of like a lot of girls are feeling that they're not able to like reach these standards. And a lot of like American men are like sexualizing just like Latina women because you say you're from Latin America. So like it's really complicated, and especially like I saw this clip by an actress, I forgot her name, and she said like I'm okay with always playing the maid, I'm okay with always playing like the mistress or like the slut or something. My issue is when that's the only thing you think that I can do. um so like it's like that's what I was gonna say about over sexualization of Latina women. It's really complicated, and obviously like it's not with that we don't help ourselves, it's just that like that's the only thing that they want to see. So like that's why like I don't know, we have like Jennifer Lopez and like a lot of roles, we have like Sofia Vergara and a lot of roles, and like don't blame me, like I love Sofia Vergara, she's like one of the smartest women, like honestly, and like she's one of the best paid actors because she's so smart. um but like she's always also like selling this stereotype of women, which is really complicated, and this also leads to issues with the Afro-Latin people. So there's a huge Afro-Latin community, but like they're often really neglected because we forget that Latinos come in all different colors, shapes, and sizes. So
Hmm.
the thing about like Afro-Latin communities that they're usually like just with like, oh, you're just black, so you just like have to like act like if you want to act on something, you just have to be black. And like this has come with like a lot of issues, so that's what I'm going to talk about, like musical theater, which I love. So like one of my favorite shows like a musical theater is In the Heights. It just came out a movie, I really do recommend to go see it. It talks about all the Latinos issues when you go to the States. I've never lived in the States, but there are a lot of things that I related to. And the thing about it is like about the Afro-Latino community, I want to talk first, is that it was a show that was meant to give the world like a view into the Latino community that it missed to cast any Afro Latinos in their main cast. So like they were just like dancers or like background characters. So like it has created a big like thing like talking about that, like how they're always been neglected and how this movie was supposed to like portray them and represent them, and it failed to do that. So that's something that we should still like look forward to in like the future. But I think but in the Heights, like coming from like I don't know if you've seen West Side Story, like the original movie,
Hmm.
West Side Story, the original movie, like
Yeah.
none of the Puerto Ricans were Puerto Rican. The only one was Rita Moreno, and the other Puerto Ricans, they were all white people that were literally like brown faced, let's say, and like they were like literally you can see the pictures. It's terrible. So
I
like
watched it a lot of time ago, but oh my god, I have
they
to
were all
check.
like put like powder on top. And like Rita Moreno was also put powder on top because she was not brown enough. Like she's a queen. I love her. And I think
Wow.
that puts you in the Heights and like my conclusion of this. So in the Heights, there's this character called Nina Rosario, and like I think that's the first character that I related to. So in the show and in the movie, she has like sort of like similar but different situations. So basically, she's like the one that made it out of in the Heights of Washington Heights, and she's now going to college in like Stanford. So like it's this like deal of like you live in back your community, like going for something better, but like now you're having like this imposter syndrome. Literally, she has like one song called Breathe, and like now with like the movie coming out and me coming back home after 1 year of college, I was like, bitch, that's me. Why I was like so sad because like the movie said like after her first year of college as well. So the thing about her is that she's just real. She knows like when you're Latino, like if you live in the States or if you live in Latin America, like it's not like college is not guaranteed. College is something that is like now coming up like with like the new generations. And so like it's something really important, and you do get a lot of imposter syndrome even if you live in your same city or you have to travel around. So like I think the how they put an eye on her for like college, and how they didn't say like, oh, she's coming back or she dropped out of school because of like, I don't know, she was dealing or she was like she got pregnant. No, like she dropped out because of like scholarship reasons. She dropped out because of like she was the movie thing, they say that she was racially profiled, and she was like, this is enough. And I think that's just like what I want to say, like how they could create characters with like real life issues and not just like going into like the narco side, which I'm not going to talk about. If you see narco shows, fuck you, honestly. The reason why they exist is because people like you, they like are buying this product and they're just like over sexualizing and over like damaging our countries. Sincerely, Colombia and Mexico. Thank you. Bye. That's it. Fuck you, honestly. I'm so pissed. I hate narco shows.
That was some tea right there.
That was something. I will say that.
Oh my god. How did we get to that?
That
Girl,
was my last note.
speak your truth.
Whenever I'm at a party at uni, they're like, "Oh my god, have you seen Narcos?" I'm like, "No, fuck you, I don't leave." Because honestly, why should I? Like, I
What
know
should
my
I go to?
history. Like, if you want to learn, about like Narco shit, like just like read a book or like see a documentary. But like the reason why they're creating this shows, like in Colombia, they've created like more shows about like Pablo Escobar and like and everywhere else. The thing about it is like they just created because people watch them. Like if you didn't watch them, they would not keep creating them because they're selling, and they're selling you this
Yeah.
idea that like there's an easy way to money. There's not an easy way to money. There's just like an easy way to hell. So fuck you. Anyway, guys, you can keep
Rich
going.
girl. Rich. Okay. Okay, so you kind of gave us a really great run, especially when it comes to Latino women, but not only. And I think the good thing is that we also have another kind of women that we want to talk about. Like, I know I'm gonna get more into like other issues, but I know Tala wanted to get into specifically like Muslim women and how they are represented in the media, and she has like a really great example that is from Spain as well. So I guess I really want to like link what Cata just said with the misrepresentation that there's been of Latino women,
Yeah.
because it's something Arab women and Muslim women in TV shows also relate to a lot. So I feel like we could link those two because
Yeah,
it's
for
something
sure.
that kind of happens to both of your communities.
Yeah. Um, well, I'm just gonna say mainstream like TV shows or like movies have always shown really bad representation on Arabs, on Muslim girls. Like, for example, Marga, you just said this. I love this show. Don't get me wrong. I do love it. I recently watched season 4. Great shit. But like it's just no. It's a no in season 2. It's called basically shows Elite. I don't know if you guys watched it. The
I got stuck in season 3, but yeah, I did
I've seen
watch.
the
yeah,
whole
season 3
thing,
was terrible.
and Lucrecia, I love her, my queen, Dana Paola. I've seen her shit since she was a little girl playing Patito Feo, but like the Mexican version. She's amazing. She's a great singer. I'm sorry, I
Okay,
just love Dana
we're with
Paola.
Arab women now, Kata.
I just needed to shout out Donna Paula.
Yeah, she's great. I like her character. But in the second season, basically, it just, and in the first also, like Nadia, who's this Arab girl living in Spain. She is Palestinian, but her parents are Palestinian refugees living in Spain, whatever. What pissed me most about the show was she wears the hijab, right? And the school told her she's not allowed to wear it. That's a first. And just like, she's not bothering you, she's not doing anything wrong, but you're gonna let her go against her own like beliefs and be uncomfortable and show her hair when she doesn't want to. It just annoys me. That's a first. Second of all, when they kind of show the dynamic between her father and her mother. Yeah, I will agree, there are some aggressive parents out there, especially Arab parents. There is this kind of mentality that kind of takes over the Arab world in a way, but like it's not that much, and it's so annoying because like it makes people see Arabs and Muslims and whatever as in such a bad way, in such a bad light, you know and it annoys me because I'm like, no, it's not like that, like, no, blah, 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 no, no, like, and I scream at the screen and saying, no, it's not like that, like, stop it, because I know billions of people are watching it, and I know like people aren't going to have the same mindset I have or the same mentality I have. Yes,
Yeah.
there are crazy families who do terrible things, okay, but we can't just generalize, from one thing. And how the elite shows an Arab representation, it kind of goes back to the Orientalist approach, of the anti-Arab. And thirdly, I don't like how she takes her hijab for Guzmán. Sorry. Like, that's why I love SKAM, because SKAM, what's her name?
I'll
Season 4, they
Ska-
showed her character.
yeah, I forgot the name.
Basically, there's
It'll come to me, but Muslim girl, yeah.
Muslim girl in SKAM. She has a whole season for herself, season 4. I love that bitch.
She's the
She's
best.
so powerful. She will never, like, she wears a hijab because she wants to, because it's her choice. And she
Yeah.
doesn't allow anything to get in her way, to get in her beliefs, to get in her religion, to get in whatever, like in partying and doing what all the other things, like, she says no to. She knows her boundaries. She knows her beliefs. She knows what she wants in life. And she's so powerful. Like, even her character, like, I don't know if you know this, Marga, but she's so powerful. And I
Yeah, her name was Sana.
Sana.
Yeah. God.
Yes, she fell in love with a boy and all that.
Yeah.
But like, she still knew who she was.
Yeah.
She didn't let that affect her beliefs and her belief in her faith.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like, oh, everyone has to be religious. I'm not religious, but I'm just saying, like, people think people who wear the hijab are oppressed, oppressed by their families, and that's just not true. And
That's bullshit.
yeah, that's complete bullshit. Like, in Islam, it says it's your choice if you want to wear the hijab or not. The people who force their daughters or whatever to wear the hijab, those are wrong. We don't associate with them. But the woman who choose to wear the hijab, that's their choice. They want to do this, as they should. They want to do this. This is their life. They're not oppressed. And it's so annoying that people, that especially ET, it just showed how hijabis are oppressed, and it's so annoying because it's not the case. Oh, anyways. Yeah, I
Yeah,
ranted
but
a
what
lot.
you were saying about like how like Nadia like took her hijab like off for like Guzman and shit, I thought it was really funny because once I saw like this quote that was saying like, and like about like representation, I was like, and it still amazed me to understand, like it still amazed me, and I really don't understand why culturally diverse and exotic women, so like talking about like Arabic women, talking about like Latina women, are always falling in love for
Really,
boring
right?
white guys that have like no culture and like nothing
Really,
to do. And I'm like,
really.
literally, like Nadia, like she was like aside like from like doing that, like she was like a real empowered bitch and she knew
Like,
where she was
yeah,
going.
exactly.
Like,
She still knows where she's going. Like, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I ship them.
oh, they were like the cutest couple
Me
out of
too.
like
Me
all of the
too.
other
They were the
toxic
cutest
romances.
couple.
Guzmán is one of my faves
Guzmán
also.
is one of my favorites too, even though he's so toxic. But
He's
like,
just a
they were truly my
boring ass
favorites
white guy
too.
if you
And I
think
was
about
like,
it.
oh my god.
Sorry.
And it kind of made like it was just like really cool to see. I really liked their dynamic and their chemistry. But I just didn't like how in the second season she was, she kind of went against all the things that she strongly believed in the first season. She would say no, 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 no to this, and it just like that kind of can affect a little girl watch, or obviously a little girl can't watch elite, obviously, but like Muslim girls or Arab girls in general, like they see that and they're like, okay, I believe in this, but like in order to fit in order for a guy to like me, I need to do this. So I'm just gonna do this, You see what I'm going at right here?
I think it
They
could
really,
also go the other way with like boys, like just like boys all over the world that see the show, of course, because of the hypersexualization of the show, but
yeah,
also like they just like start liking, or they just see like this little Arabic girl that like is trying to fit in. They will probably just try to force her because that's what like worked for Guzman to get some like literally sex. So like, and then like drop like
yeah,
literally just like leave her
yeah,
off like after
exactly,
saying like I love you with like my whole heart. Makes no
exactly,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
So just in general, like there's barely enough Muslim representation on TV. When there is, it's bad. Every single one of them. I'm not gonna lie. And it kind of, as I said before, when we were answering the icebreakers, it kind of impacted my childhood because it made me want to be someone else. Like
Hmm.
by not seeing anyone that looked like me, I was like, okay, so I'm not important. Like I'm invisible, you know.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of be someone else, especially living in the States where there was barely even Muslim people around me. Like literally, I was in the whitest neighborhood ever. But yeah, so like that kind of can affect a lot of kids and teenagers, more than people would think so, because they just need someone to kind of relate to. And I
Yeah.
love the recent shows that are showing, Asian representation and like, from Indian or Korean or, whatever. Um, they're really showing main characters that are not white. And I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. Just like now we're becoming diverse. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm done. Marga, you start. I ranted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Wait, before. Okay.
no, go ahead, Cata.
I
Cata?
say
Sweetie.
that like that like I was just gonna say that like it really sucks for like I think for Arabic women because like let's say that like people like something really important when you're a little girl is having like the little princess that you can look
Yeah.
after. So like
I
having that
love
princess be
Jasmine.
like up and people will be like Jasmine. And
Yeah.
like you can say whatever about
She's not
Jasmine and like
yeah.
people are gonna be like, yes, I love her, like no I don't. So I think it's like I just hope that like in the future there's someone that like a princess that girls can look after for you. Like for me, I don't have one yet. But hopefully like the movie that's like coming out from Disney about like Colombia, like I'm really excited about that one because it's gonna be first of all like the first Disney princess like that's gonna be that is gonna have glasses and like I just wear glasses for like to like watching like the screens but like
That's so
my little
sweet.
sister like she watches glasses, she has glasses all the time and she's like not just bullied for it but like it's has been really hard for her and like also like the original name of the character is gonna be my sister's name but like they change it so like I was really
Oh,
excited for her because I know that like a lot of girls are like struggling with this. So yes, I'm excited for like Latina Disney princess.
I'm excited
Um,
too. I'm gonna so watch it.
so
me too.
oh, I'm gonna be renting like a cinema, so like I'm gonna force everyone to come watch it with
Yeah.
me. I'm
I
gonna be
mean,
crying the whole movie,
When
but
is it
sure.
coming? When is it like?
November.
Oh, so we're gonna be together.
we're watching it. Okay, so we're
We're
watching
watching
it
it together.
together
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
at the
like I'm
cinema,
forcing
Tala.
everyone.
Let's see how much you understand.
Oh fuck! No, I forgot. No, guys, we need English subtitles, please. I
Yeah,
want.
I could
we'll
not
ask
see a
the
movie
guy at
about
the
Colombia
cinema.
in English. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
honestly,
Can we watch
Tala, start with your Spanish because in November you have to be fluent to understand.
But it's in
But I also like
Spanish.
one
It's
thing that I'm like
different.
actually worried about. It's like if the movie like well me being in Spain, if the movie's gonna be like dubbed in like Spanish like version, like
Oh,
Castellano. Because if it is, like I'm gonna be like
it
so
mu-
offended. I'm gonna be like, it's the same language, just
I
like
don't.
it's a
I
movie
don't
about
think they
Colombia.
will.
Can we
I don't
just
think they will.
Can we
I don't
just
think they
search
will, but
it?
I don't know.
Can we just search it online and watch it have
No, we
English
have to see it in
subtitles?
the movie theater. I'm
No,
so sorry.
we
It has to
have
be
to
seen in the movie
contribute
theater.
economically.
Then you're gonna translate for me the whole time.
Oh, I'm gonna be
Yes.
crying.
Literally, I
I
think
cried.
I'm gonna be crying. Marga,
When they announced the movie, I was
Marga
crying.
translates.
I can't believe we're making plans right now. Okay. Marga, you can go
Okay.
ahead.
Anyway,
Okay.
I just wanted to say that about like princesses and how they're important. And like now Marga can go. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Okay. So what I wanted to focus on is something that I've kind of already hinted a bit, because what I said is that I kind of never found characters that I could like relate to in the same sense as you girls have been talking about, like finding an Arab girl, for example, or finding a Latina girl. I never kind of found that, and it's because of course I am white. I am also what could be maybe considered Hispanic because I'm from Spain, but definitely, definitely like the characters that would represent me in some way when it comes to ethnicity or race. I mean, there would be white characters, but I never felt represented by those characters, and they were always characters that felt like so far away from me because they were like really pretty and they were like yeah, like incredible characters I would always aim to be like, but I felt like I was
You're
out of
also pretty,
we're
Marga.
always thank you, Cata. But that I always felt we're like out of reach, you know. I was never a girl with that was like the most normative or the most typical in many senses, and I never felt represented, for example, when I saw characters in when I was a little girl. And what happened with my teenage years, in which I struggled a lot with mental health, is that I did find, and I mean, it was precisely in SKAM, but that show just changed my life. But I started finding in those years and with these kinds of shows what kind of representation I actually needed and how important it was and how significant it was when it was good representation. And it was not, in my case, it was not that much about finding someone whose, you know, whose race, whose ethnicity, whose religion was the same as mine. But in my case, it was more about finding someone that struggles with the same things I struggle and because they're not in a good mental place. And in that sense I found representation when it came to mental health, especially in the last few years. I found it like really important for me, but I found how it impacted society in general a lot. So of course it is like really important to raise awareness when it comes to mental illness or just the importance of mental health in general, even not just mental illness, and how important it is to like raise awareness and break the stigma. Of course, the fact that you make a show and you have characters that are not like second characters, they're actual characters that they struggle with different things, and you see them and you see how they can heal, how they can be loved, how they are not difficult to love because they're struggling, and that they need people and that they need help. But of course that they're not just their illness, how there's much more to them, how they can be characters that you relate to, that you can love, and that you would think, oh, I would be a friend of this character. Of course, she, they might be struggling, but that doesn't mean they cannot be loved. That doesn't mean that because they have a bad day, oh, I just life is a path of roses for the rest of us, and she just, you know, she's just struggling, that's her problem. Well, no, what this TV shows show you, apart from of course the fact that we're raising awareness and breaking the stigma when it comes to different mental illnesses, is how it can look and how it can be for people that are struggling with mental health issues, and how we have to, this shows kind of show that they can be loved, that they can have lives as any other, that because they struggle, that doesn't mean they're weird people. You know, they're not only their illness. It always happens to me. I will always talk about how much it matters, like how much language matters, how much it matters that, you know, it's not that you go and talk about your friend that has depression as your depressive friend, as, you know, he's depressing, anything like that. Just that's not how you should talk about your friend with depression. If he has depression, that he has depression. Like, when you break a bone, you don't suddenly become your broken bone. You have a broken bone, but you're not the broken bone, right? Well, I'm not my mental illness. So that's the same thing. I mean, it's a really bad example, but that's more or less what I mean. Like, it's like I struggle with this. I'm not this, you know, I broke my bone, I'm not my broken bone. I know that's a really bad example, but what I mean is, like, of course, if you're struggling with depression, it's not that you've become your entire illness and your life is just that. Many times you're going to be really consumed by that illness. And I think the way that has been portrayed in some TV shows has really shown the reality of that, and that has helped a lot when it comes to raising awareness about what these mental illnesses actually look like. But that doesn't mean, you know, that because you have those days and because mental illness sometimes make your life kind of revolve around it and be like really like a kind of like a day-to-day thing that you have to fight against and fight for yourself every day, struggling with it. That doesn't mean, you know, that you're just that. That doesn't mean that you're not going to go anywhere else. And I think in those sense, there have been shows that have represented that so well, that have actually shown the struggles, especially of teenagers and of actual mental illnesses really well. Like there's Shameless, for example, with that represents a manic disorder, and same a bipolar disorder actually, and SKAM with a manic disorder, but also with the eating disorder. But there have been also other shows that, and this is where I wanted to get to, not just the good representation and how important it is in general to raise awareness, but, you know, the importance of raising it well. Because the show that I want to talk about, that I feel everyone kind of saw this as a show back in the day that was doing really good. But to me, it was the absolute opposite. It was 13 Reasons Why. When that came out, there was like a huge impact and like a huge reaction. And I understand why. Like they were topics, especially back in those years, that they were not touched upon as much. And I understand where it all came out from. But like all this big reaction and all this big love for the show and the characters. But the way it was represented and the way they treated the death of the character, what led the main character, Hannah Baker, to suicide, that was so unrealistic. All the characters were so unrealistic. Of course, they were showing real struggles. They talked about sexual assault, and you could actually see a really rough scene that represented that moment in Hannah's life. And there were so many things that actually were like actual struggles teenagers may have and that the girl went through. And that was well represented. What was not well represented was her like when she was struggling mentally, what led her to suicide and kind of all that it developed into. That was not good. That was not good. Like, there were so many things wrong with how that was represented that I could like talk and talk and talk. But the fact that they have the chance to talk about such a sensitive topic, and there are like no scenes in which you see anyone kind of reaching out or trying to help Hannah. Not anyone asking, what can I do for you when she's struggling? Not anyone, nothing, no good relationships with therapists, with parents, showing them that they can help. So, you know, instead you're watching the show and there was more of a copycat effect than there was anything else. People thought, oh, they're raising awareness, they're showing the reality of a girl that committed suicide. But the thing is, in this process, there was never a teenager that said, I'm here for you. And they kind of gave that feeling that the love of the other main character could save her life. Like if Clay had loved Hannah, maybe he could have saved her life, which is bullshit. So it was so wrong. They had the chance to take such a sensitive topic and make so many things right, and they did quite the opposite. Like they didn't show any healthy relationships, any other way to help. Like this show could have been a thing that not only raised awareness by showing what happened, but also showing how you can help. You could have seen a parent supporting, a friend supporting. You could have seen so many things, and the reality of therapists, the reality of what she was going through.
Yeah,
But
but
no,
also like
it
Hannah
was it
did
was
reach out though, no?
she did reach out, but there was never like something that when she was meant to be guided, and she was meant to like be helped, but she was never appropriately like helped. And that is kind of like not being able to kind of actually know what was happening to her when she reached out and helping her was kind of what led her into what happened. Of course, many things had happened to her, but it just turned out into something that instead of showing people how they could help and how help can be effective, and of course you may not be able to prevent a suicide from happening, but you can definitely give resources. They could have definitely showed the way it could have been done well, but instead there was more of a copycat effect. Like, why did you do that? Oh, because Hannah Baker did it. It was like a lot of girls that kind of started to see suicide instead of as something as they could come out from, like being in a dark place, and they could be shown that help is effective, that the the outcome that this could have, that the dark place they're at could have, was not that they deserve, that they didn't deserve death, and they deserve to be helped. Instead of showing that, what they showed was just like something that could then be copied by other girls. Instead, like parents that watch the TV show with their kids, what they were not shown how to prevent the how to prevent it. They were not shown how to help their kids, and kids were actually shown how more of like how could they feel hurt and how could they blame others for their suicide, which is also something that is really wrong. Like all the tapes kind of like taking that fact, yeah, that of like her taking revenge and her using the tapes to tell people like, oh, you are guilty. That is such a misrepresentation of what suicide is actually like.
Yeah, like I don't like how like
Yeah.
she says like you're the reason why. But
Yeah.
as well, like I feel like from what I perceived, I felt like she was telling her story to all the
Yeah.
people who wronged her in a way. Like
Yeah.
this is what
Yeah.
was happening to me while you guys did this to me. So I'm gonna
Hmm.
tell you why I killed myself. And I'm sorry, but like I know it's harsh to like tell people you're the reason why, blah blah blah. Like this is, but I didn't really see it as a revenge. I kind of saw it as a way of her, telling her story to people who badly needed to hear it. I feel like,
Yeah, I think
just regardless of Clay, but I feel like a lot of them really changed their character. Justin, the
Yeah.
changed him.
Yeah, I do understand that, but there's also a lot of emotional manipulation in
Yeah.
doing that.
Oh, for
So
sure.
that
Oh, for
is what
sure.
is wrong with it. Not the fact, of course, it's not justifiable what they did, but
Yeah.
of course, leaving that there and kind of like it's like they're being punished. It's like being given that like
Yeah,
now this
giving
is
that
gonna
trauma.
haunt you
Yeah,
for the
now.
rest of your life.
Yeah,
Of
yeah,
course,
yeah.
they are the ones to blame for things, and they definitely did things that led Hannah into such a bad mental place. But it's emotional manipulation. It's
Oh,
like
yeah, for
it's
sure.
as if someone just says that you're in a relationship and they threaten you with hurting themselves if you leave them.
Oh, yeah.
It's that
yeah,
kind
I
of
think
manipulation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I
yeah.
can totally see that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not defending, but I'm just being the devil's advocate here. But I remember, 'cause, like, that's what I perceived when I was watching 13 Reasons Why, and
Hmm.
for sure there was a lot of gaslighting, there was a lot of emotional manipulation, and that
Yeah.
kind of trauma. I don't feel like they ever recovered from the trauma that Hannah dumped on them, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was gonna say about the show. So like when the show came out, I did research a lot about it,
Hmm.
and what I've seen is that like the book, like version of the book, I know for a lot of people like in the community did like a lot of things for them. For like a lot of people, like the book technically saved them because like the book like has a good way of representing of like that thing about like people saying like the tapes are like not the reason why, like there's so many, like there's more reasons why to live than to
Yeah.
die. And one thing that I thought was really interesting, and I think, well, like I don't know if you want to go back and watch the last episode, but I remember the director of the show saying that during the last episode you were able to see him. I did watch it back after I saw this. um
Hmm.
you can see a lot of moments where Hannah is like, when people are taking Hannah, like I remember that she was like on a theater, like on a poetry club, and one of the girls that was in the poetry club, like while she was picking up, I think when she was picking up her tapes, um told her like, to her like, oh, I have really missed you, when I'm gonna see you again, like on the theater club, on the poetry club. And like around the episode they're really small moments, like really really small moments of telling you like, I haven't seen you, where have you been, like oh my god, we should catch up, and like stuff like that, to show Hannah. Like if you're like, I think I've seen that people, that when people are actually like really depressed and see the show, they see them because they're like, oh, like someone really cares about me, or like someone, oh, like look, someone was like, at least for 5 seconds they think about me, which obviously like, as the show was seen by like so many people, and like people, like when you're like neurotypical, you're just like, you're not seeing that, you're not like going deeper, you're just like seeing the show for the jokes, or for the like I hate you and here's the reason why. And like honestly, like we had like the joke at school like for over like a year of like the tapes. I was like, you're on my tape. um so like I think that was the big issue, and like the show could have done so many more things, but I
Yeah.
think, I look back at it and like I honestly don't think that there was like more things that the show could have done with like the source material being a suicide. And
Hmm.
like then they just like screwed up. I didn't see
Oh,
more
they
of it.
screwed
Like
up later on.
I think
I
I
feel
saw a
like they
little bit
should
of
have
season
stopped in the
two,
season
but
one.
just like
I agree they should have
uh-huh.
stopped season one and that's it. Like they screwed up season two so bad. There was a scene that
Yeah.
I traumatized me.
I never saw
Really?
season three.
Yeah, it was bad. It was like a really
Yeah.
traumatizing scene that everyone complained about. That everyone was like, "What
I don't
the
remember
hell
about
is
the
this?"
I
scene you're
I
talking about.
I
I
think I've
just remember
heard.
one thing about
The
season
bathroom.
two.
I'm just gonna say in the bathroom, and
Oh, that was so intense. I literally forgot about that one.
I have not seen
The
it,
that
but
was
I
one
did
thing,
hear a lot of complaints.
I was so shocked. I was like screaming. I was like, "Oh my god!" And I was flipping my laptop. Like I didn't want to see it. I didn't
Oh
see.
my
I,
god.
it was so painful.
yeah. It was real intense. The one thing I remember about season two was she being with the guy. That it was like that they were like supposed to be in love, and like no one could know that they were together. And then like
Oh,
school
Zach,
came along. Yeah,
Zach.
that one. I liked him. And I
No,
was like, yes, they can be together. But then I remember that she was dead, so I was like, why are we seeing this? Why are you making me fall in love with them? Um so yeah, so season two was a bullshit, but I think like they did try to take like a lot of issues, but so like they talk about like rape for men like in season two. They talk about like rape culture, they talk about like PTSD with like I forgot the name of the friend. So they tried to do a lot of things and they just missed the mark on all of them, which is just like
Yeah,
really
it's like
sucks because
they opened the
I don't think we're gonna have,
conversation. Yeah, they
but
opened
I
the
don't think we're gonna
conversation, but
have
they
any
never
other shows
closed it
with that.
well. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
And I
could
think
have.
exactly.
that's an issue.
Yeah.
And that's an issue. I don't think Netflix or any big company is gonna have any other shows like probably in the near future that's gonna be as harsh or as like intense, deep
Yeah,
cut as 13 Reasons Why it was supposed to be.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it really sucks.
Yeah, I wish
But
they would
yeah,
have done it like well in and not just opened the conversation, but kind of found a way to make it more effective than
I
it
think my
was.
favorite thing about 13 Reasons Why was Beyond the Reasons. That was like the talk,
Mm-hmm.
like when the actors sat down and talk about like the show and like their experiences with the show. I think one of the actresses said that the book also like saved her and stuff. Um, so yeah, so I think that's what I liked. And yeah, I'm sorry. You can
No,
continue.
yeah. Yeah. that was my rant about mental health. Honestly, nothing else. I really wanted to differentiate in between, good and bad representation. I think that is important in every topic. But when it comes to this, it can literally save lives, and it definitely has saved many. And with certain reasons why sometimes I'm scared it might have had an opposite effect. But it's true, other people might have been helped or might have reached out or looked for help thanks to it kind of opening the conversation. So at least the fact that we are being represented, it's good. It's just that we really need to make sure bit by bit that we do it well.
Yeah. And there's more room for progress. I mean, I definitely see new things happening, but there's more room for progression, not all of it. And I feel like that's a great way to end this episode.
It is.
Thank you. If you have anything you want to say to us about representation, we will ask the questions on our Instagram stories.
Yeah.
Marga, Cata, do you have any last words?
I mean, there's a lot that we could have covered and a lot of things that deserve representation. So reach out if you want.
2:30 a.m. I just want to go to sleep.
Okay, but what I was saying, so reach out if you feel like in the questions that we're gonna have, you can feel safe to talk about whatever you want and how it has impacted you. Because it's really important. Good representation is really important. It can change lives.
It really can.
Yeah.
Send us a DM if you want to go see Colombian movie with us, Encanto, on November. You're more than welcome to come.
Yeah, it's in Spanish, so practice.
And on that note, we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Yeah, don't forget to follow us on our socials. Bye.
Yeah, bye.